I'm going to cover the steps you need to take to pass your real estate licensing exam on the first try. Hey guys, I'm Darren Sy. I'm a licensed real estate agent and licensed loan officer in California. I actually passed both of those exams on my first try, and I'm currently studying for my broker's license. I'm going to share my study habits and some important tips and tricks that are going to help you pass your real estate licensing exam on the first try. If you found this video, I am guessing that you've already started your real estate licensing education. And if you haven't, that's totally okay. I'm actually going to drop a link to another video I made on how to start that process and how to get your license. Let's get into what steps you'll need to take to pass your real estate license exam on the first try. And I'm going to start with what not to do. And these are some very common mistakes that most people make. The first is being the best possible student. And what I mean by that is you're studying and reading every single word. You're taking these super detailed notes. You're trying to read every single sentence and get to the bottom of every single topic. While this tactic could help, it's definitely not going to be the best use of your time. The real estate exam, the actual test, will test you on a wide range of topics, but it's not going to go super deep into those topics. So you will need to know a lot of general topics. You're going to need to know a lot of different definitions, but you're not going to need to go super deep into each of those concepts. So when you're going through your education and you're going through the real estate classes, go ahead and skim through the reading. It's not going to be worth it for you to read thousands of pages of real estate text when most of that will not be on the test. So go ahead, give yourself permission to skim through those. And just remember, your main objective with those real estate education courses is to ultimately pass the real estate exam and get your license. So why I say you can skim through the chapters in the reading and actually focus on reading the chapter summaries is because most of the content in the reading won't be on your test. And that leads right into how to study. The first thing is read your chapter summaries. In those summaries, it's going to give you the most important relevant information. In my experience, the most important thing is to understand specific real estate vocabulary. So for example, knowing what the word chattel means, right? Or knowing what an estate at will is, or understanding what eminent domain is. If you can focus in and learn all the real estate vocab and get a good idea of what those concepts mean, you're going to do a great job on the test. The second part of how to study is actually preparing for your exam, right? So, exam prep. And this is after you've completed your real estate education, you've gone through, you've read those summaries, you've learned all these words. Now, actually preparing to pass the exam, the most important piece of this is getting a good test bank of questions. So if you're able to get, 800 to 1,000 questions that are very similar to what's going to be on the real estate exam, you're going to feel very confident and comfortable when you're taking the test. When I got my licenses, I went through Calibri and I bought the education course plus the exam prep, which just has a huge test bank of great test questions that were very similar to the test. So if you don't know where to get the test questions, go ahead and use the link in my description. You'll be able to get a great test bank of questions there. If you aren't able to purchase questions, I actually make test question videos where I actually cover test questions from a good test bank. And so if you don't have access to questions, you can actually go to this playlist on my channel and you can study using that. Obviously, it doesn't have every single question, but there's a good amount on there. Okay, so we're talking about exam prep. And this is the few weeks prior to your actual exam. This is the time that I spent getting in front of as many test questions as possible. I highly recommend you get at least 800 questions or more and go through those at least once or twice. A quick side note is from my experience, many of the questions I had seen so many times before in practice. When I saw it on the actual exam, I already knew what the answer was because I'd seen that question multiple times already. Another thing about getting a good test bank of questions is that when you take these practice exams over and over again, you're going to quickly notice how some of the questions are worded. Some of the questions are worded in a tricky way, right? They're going to ask you what's not true versus what is true, stuff like that. So, really, really important. Make sure you read all the questions carefully. So, now I'm going to go through actual test prep. You've already signed up and you've scheduled your real estate license exam, and this is the week leading up to it. I highly recommend doing practice questions every day that week, except for the day of your exam. And the way I did it was I blocked out 3 hours a day and I did 150 questions. So you might be wondering, why did you block out 3 hours a day and choose 150 questions? In California, our real estate salesperson's license is a 3 hour test and 150 multiple choice questions. I wanted to practice in the most similar scenario as the actual exam. And this also allowed me to break up my studying over multiple days instead of just cramming for the test. I believe that cramming is not the best way for retention, so I broke up my studying. Definitely do not recommend cramming. Personally, for me, the day before, I just make sure I get a good night's sleep, I eat some good food, and I wake up the next day feeling good, physically good, mentally good, and I'm feeling confident. And obviously, that's what worked for me. I passed both my real estate license exam and my loan officer license exam on the first try for both. But you probably know what works better for you. So figure out what's going to work for you and create a good schedule for yourself. At the end of the day, I want to see you succeed, and I want to see you pass this exam on your first try. Now that we've gone through how to pass the real estate exam, I'm just going to give you a quick summary of the video. Do not read every word when you're doing your education. Focus on the summaries, know the important definitions, review and understand important concepts, have a wide understanding of everything. You don't need to go super deep. I'd say this is probably the most important. Get a good set of practice test questions and just drill those practice test questions till you're feeling really confident. And I would say with the practice test question, try to score between 85% and 90. So that gives you plenty of room for error. But if you're scoring that on the practice ones, you're definitely passing the exam on your first try. And of course, don't cram, right? Make sure the day before your actual test, get a good night's sleep. You eat well. So the next day, and you hydrate. So the next day, when you wake up, you're feeling good. You're mentally feeling good. You're feeling confident, and you're passing the exam on your first try. I don't want to see you waste any money or time failing this exam, Brad. We want to get you licensed so you can get working right away. After you pass your exam on the first try, using the strategies in this video, come back and drop a comment letting us know. Thanks for watching the video. We want to see you crush it.